The sun burned bright over the edge of the city, where steel towers ended and red sand began. Just beyond the last security gate, there stood an old shooting range. It was dusty, cracked, and half covered in rust, but it was the perfect place for bounty hunters to practice their aim. Today, 6 young bounty hunters were there. Loud, arrogant, and dressed in black armor, they were firing bright blue plasma rounds at moving targets. One of them laughed as his shot hit dead center. "Easy," he said. "I could do this with my eyes closed." The others cheered. They were young, maybe in their 20s, full of energy, and even fuller of pride. None of them noticed the small figure walking toward the range until her footsteps crunched on the gravel. An old woman. Her hair was silver and tied back in a low bun. Her coat was long and brown, covered in dust. She walked slowly, her knees stiff, her hand gripping the strap of a worn leather bag. The youngest hunter squinted. "Hey, what's this? Grandma got lost." Another laughed. "She's gonna teach us how to knit." The old woman didn't respond. She walked straight to the sign-up desk and pointed to the competition list. "I want in," she said quietly. The man behind the counter blinked. "Ma'am, are you sure? This is the pro-level match. You need your own weapon." She nodded once, then opened her bag. Inside was an old pistol, made of dark metal, scratched and faded. It looked like something from a museum. The man looked nervous. "That's not exactly standard." "It'll do," she said, and placed it gently on the counter. The bounty hunters watched in silence. Then one of them chuckled. "She can barely hold that thing," he whispered to his friend. "She'll break her arm trying." The match began. The first hunter stepped up and hit 2 targets out of 4. The next one hit 3. A third missed entirely and laughed it off. Finally, it was the old woman's turn. She stepped up to the firing line, the pistol in her hand shaking ever so slightly. Her eyes, however, were steady, cold, focused. "You sure you want to do this, Granny?" one of the hunters called. She didn't answer. She just loaded the weapon, slow, careful, like it was something sacred. The crowd snickered. A few took out their phones to record. She looked down the range. 4 metal targets stood in a row, moving gently from side to side. Wind blew dust across the ground. The old woman took a deep breath. Then she whispered almost to herself, "Let's see if I still got it." Her finger squeezed the trigger. Boom. The sound was different. Deep, heavy, powerful. Not like the sharp hiss of plasma. A single bullet flew downrange. Clang, 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 clang. All 4 targets dropped. 1 bullet. 4 perfect hits. There was silence. Total silence. Even the wind seemed to pause. The young hunters stared, mouths open. One of them dropped his drink. Another dropped his rifle. What kind of shot was that?" The youngest one asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The old woman turned slightly, eyes still calm. "An old trick," she said. "You just have to know where the metal lines up." She walked away, pistol in hand, coat flapping behind her. The bounty hunters didn't say a word. They just watched her walk back to the bench, sit down, and quietly reload. The crowd still hadn't recovered from Nora's shot. No one laughed now. The young bounty hunters huddled in a quiet corner, whispering. Phones were out. One of them had already uploaded the video. It was spreading fast. "Did you see how that bullet cut through all 4? One whispered. "That wasn't just skill," another said. "That was something else." Behind them, Nora sat on a bench under a shade top. She slowly cleaned her pistol, the same way she'd done for decades. Oil, cloth, focus. Marshal Gell, the range supervisor, stepped over. He was an ex-soldier, tall and built like a tank. He didn't smile often, but now he couldn't stop grinning. "That was the finest shot I've seen in 30 years, he said. Nora looked up and nodded once. "Thank you. Mind telling me where you learned that?" She didn't answer. Gell leaned in slightly. "You're not just some old ranch lady, are you?" Still, she said nothing, just packed her gear and stood. But as she turned to leave, a small drone zipped past overhead. "BEP. A hologram flashed in the sky above the shooting range, a breaking news alert from the city's net feed. Unidentified woman's shot goes viral. Who is she? Says GUVERNO artist CCURET chief. Then, a close-up still image of Nora's face. Clear, sharp, full ID scan. The range fell into dead silence again. Marshal Gell's eyes widened. You knew this would happen, he said. I didn't mean for it, Nora replied softly. But maybe it's time. She turned back toward the crowd. Her voice was calm, but loud enough for everyone to hear. My name isn't just Nora, she said. I used to be called something else, in the service. A pause. The young hunters stared. They called me Viper One. Special Forces. Black Ops. Ghost Unit. Gasps broke out. One bounty hunter dropped his weapon in shock. Wait, you're Viper One. The one who took down the Night Wolf cartel. Nora didn't answer directly. She simply walked forward, slow and steady, toward the sign-up board again. I haven't used that name in 40 years, she said. I didn't want to be a legend. I just wanted peace. Then she looked at them, young, proud, and suddenly uncertain. But peace doesn't last forever. Suddenly, a siren blared in the distance. LEFOOP, LEHOOP. Police drones swarmed overhead. A transport vehicle landed near the gate. Several armored officers jumped out. Their commander walked forward, visor down. We're looking for a woman named Nora Kane, he announced. She's a person of interest in a high-priority case. Nora stepped toward them, calm as ever. I'm right here, she said. The bounty hunters backed away, unsure what was happening. Ma'am, the officer said, we believe someone from your past has returned. Someone dangerous. He held up a small holopad. Nora looked at the image. Her face darkened. It was a face she hadn't seen in 40 years. That's not possible, she whispered. He died. I killed him. The commander shook his head. No, ma'am. He's alive. And he's asking for you. Nora turned back to Marshal Gell and the crowd. It seems my piece is over, she said. Then she picked up her pistol, holstered it, and stepped into the transport vehicle without another word. The ship lifted off, dust blowing across the stunned crowd. The range had been silent before. Now it was completely still. Nora sat quietly in the police transport as it flew over the city. The officer across from her kept stealing glances, clearly nervous. He had heard of Viper One. Everyone in the old files had. She wasn't just a soldier. She was a ghost, a myth, a warning in military training classes. But now, the ghost was real, and she looked tired. The ship landed on a secret rooftop base, high above the city where few people ever went. 2 guards opened the doors. The commander walked beside her, voice low. He escaped 2 nights ago. We didn't believe it at first, but then, he left a message. He handed her a small holo chip. Nora took it. The moment she pressed play, a face appeared in the air. Ragged, pale, one eye missing. But that voice, smooth and cold like oil, had Nora, or should I say, Viper One. Nora's lips tightened. She knew that voice. I told them you'd come for me again, and I was right. But this time, it's my turn. The video glitched, then ended. The commander spoke again. He's calling himself Shadow Warden now. We don't know how he survived the fall, but he's back, and he's building something under the city. Nora said nothing. She simply looked out over the rooftop, where towers blinked in the night air. I buried him beneath a burning moon base, she said quietly. He shouldn't be alive. The commander nodded. And yet, he is. They led her into a war room. Screens showed activity below the surface of the city. Strange power spikes. Disappearances. Drone footage showing deep tunnels. He's gathering people, said one officer. All ex-military. All off-grid. He's building an army, said another. And we don't know why. Then the commander turned to Nora. You're the only one who ever stopped him. She looked at the map. Her finger tapped a point underground. If he's really back, she said, He won't stop until everything burns. She turned. Get me my gear. Everyone stared. But ma'am, said a young tech. You're retired. Nora gave a faint smile. So was my enemy. A door opened. A box was brought in. Heavy, locked. Inside, the old armor of Viper 1. Black with silver trim. Battle-scarred. She touched it gently. Then whispered, time to remind the shadows who I am. Nora, now dressed in her old black armor, stood at the edge of the city's underbelly. The streets above were full of noise and neon lights, but down here, it was silent. No police, no cameras, only rusted stairs and warning signs. She climbed down. Behind her, a young officer named Relo followed. He had begged the commander to join the mission. He wanted to see the legend in action. But now, as they walked deeper into the tunnels, Relo began to feel afraid. Are you sure this is the way? He asked, voice echoing in the dark. Nora didn't look back. He always builds where people are too scared to look. They passed broken machines, leaking pipes, and strange markings on the walls, symbols from an old war only a few remembered. Then, they saw it, a giant metal door built into the rock. Fresh. Welded tight. Nora pulled out a strange device. It beeped twice, then sparked. The door hissed and opened slowly. Inside, a long hallway stretched forward. Lights flickered above. Relo stepped in, but Nora pulled him back. She pointed. Thin red lines moved across the floor and walls, laser traps. Booby-trapped, she whispered. She threw a stone forward. The moment it hit the floor, ZAP. The lasers fired, burning the rock to ash. Rilo gulped. How do we get through? Nora gave him a calm look. You stay here. I move. But she was already gone. Moving like smoke, Nora flipped, rolled, and stepped between the lasers. Not one beam touched her. Rilo watched in shock. She made it to the other side and gave him a signal to wait. Alone now, Nora pushed deeper. The hallway turned into a giant room. It was filled with machines, wires, and tanks, some glowing with green liquid. Inside the tanks were people, floating, unconscious, cloned. Her stomach turned. These weren't just captives. They were copies, human weapons. Suddenly, a voice came from the shadows. Ah! The snake returns to the nest. Nora turned slowly. From the far corner, a man stepped out. His body was covered in black armor. One eye glowed red. Shadow Warden, she said. Viper 1, he replied, bowing mockingly. I told them you'd come. She looked at the tanks. You're copying soldiers? No, he smiled. I'm perfecting them. Nora pulled her weapon. I stopped you once. I'll do it again. But he only laughed. Did you think this was just about me? This is bigger, much bigger. Suddenly, alarms blared. Doors sealed behind her. She was trapped. The Shadow Warden raised his hand. Let's see if you're still as deadly, without a way out. From the walls, hidden machines unfolded. Mechanical soldiers rose up, eyes glowing red. Nora took a deep breath. Let's dance then. She charged forward, alone, but not afraid. Metal soldiers, tall, cold and silent, closed in on Nora. Their arms shifted into weapons. Lasers locked on her. But Nora didn't flinch. With one sharp move, she rolled sideways, dodging the first blast. The ground exploded behind her. She slid under one soldier, kicked its leg, and spun around with her old pistol. Bam! A clean shot right through its glowing eye. It sparked and dropped. The others charged. Nora ducked behind a steel pipe, then pulled a small disc from her belt. It looked old, dusty. She kissed it. Still remember you, she whispered. She tossed it into the air. It lit up and spun, shooting out a loud pulse. For a second, the metal soldiers froze. Nora moved like lightning. One by one, she took them down. Every move perfect, every shot clean. From the control room above, the Shadow Warden watched, his red eye glowing. She still has it, he whispered. Then he frowned. Too bad it won't matter. He flipped a switch. Gas hissed into the room. Nora stopped, coughing. The air grew thick and green. The last soldier tried to grab her, but she pulled a hidden blade from her boot and stabbed it in the neck. Sparks flew. She stumbled to the side, gas burning her throat. Suddenly, boom! The door behind her exploded open. Officer Relo rushed in, gas mask on. He threw her another mask and dragged her out of the smoke. "You weren't supposed to follow," she said weakly. "I'm not watching a legend die alone," he snapped back. He carried her down a side tunnel. "We've got one shot. There's a blast core under the cloning tanks. If we trigger it, this whole place goes up." Nora coughed and nodded. "Set it." They ran back through the halls. Above them, the Shadow Warden screamed orders. Machines reactivated. Clones began waking up in the tanks, eyes flickering open, confused. "They're activating the copies," Rilo shouted. Nora limped forward and reached the main core. A glowing orb sat inside a protected case. She opened a panel. Her hand shook. "I need 30 seconds. "I'll hold them off," Rilo said. He turned and raised his blaster. Metal feet echoed down the hall. Nora worked fast. Wires sparked. Lights flickered. The whole base shook. "It's set," she yelled. "Then ruin," Relo screamed. They sprinted back through the corridor. Clones chased them. Machines fired. They dove out of the last tunnel just as "Boom." A shockwave roared behind them. Fire lit up the underground. The lab was gone. Silence. Dust. Then, movement. Nora pushed up, bruised but alive. Relo sat beside her, coughing but smiling. They looked back at the rising smoke. The city had no idea how close it had come to disaster. Nora took one deep breath and said quietly, "Viper 1, mission complete." The underground lab was gone. The secret cloning project was erased, and the name Viper 1 was being whispered again across the city, this time with deep respect. But Nora, she had disappeared. No reporters found her. No medals were pinned. She didn't want any of that. Until one bright morning, a military ceremony was held at the city plaza. Top officers, veterans, and civilians gathered. The mayor stood at the stage, holding a black box. "Today," the mayor said, "we honor someone who saved this city without anyone knowing. A woman who carried the weight of history on her shoulders and chose peace over power." A young officer walked on stage. It was Relo. He took the box, opened it, and showed a small golden medal with an eagle and a lightning bolt. "The Medal of the Shield," he said, "is only given once in 100 years. But she asked not to come today, so instead, I'll tell you her story." And he did. He spoke of the gray-haired woman who walked into the range, how people laughed at her, how she never answered back with words, only with actions. He told the story of Viper 1, once the most feared warrior in the Shadow Wars, who left it all behind to live quietly, until the danger came back. "She saved us again," he said, then faded into the crowd like she was never there. The crowd stood silently. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Then, far in the back, among the people, someone clapped once, a second clap. More joined in, and suddenly, the whole crowd was clapping. They didn't know where she was, but they were thanking her anyway. Miles away, on a quiet green hill, Nora sat on a bench. Her old pistol rested in her lap. Birds chirped in the trees. She watched the city skyline. She smiled a little, then stood up, picked a small wildflower, and walked toward the setting sun. No cameras, no noise, just a quiet goodbye from the legend no one saw coming.